What is a mentor? In Greek mythology, mentor was the friend whom Odysseus left in charge of the household while he was at Troy, and who was the teacher and protector of Telemachus, Odysseus' son. Who has been a teacher and guide for you? I often think that the basic task of human life is to discover who you are and whose you are. So in that light, a mentor is someone who teaches and guides you as you come to discover who you are and whose you are. If I think about it like that, one of my teachers and guides in life has been a Redemptorist missionary, Father Ray Corriveau. Father Ray had a doctorate degree in moral theology. He was an author and editor of many books and articles. He was a professor and teacher of moral theology. He was a former formation director and provincial superior of the Edmonton-Toronto province of the Redemptorists. This tells you something about him, but it tells you very little about why I looked up to him so much, what he taught me, how he taught me, and why he inspired me. I met Father Ray when he was a pastor in St. John's, Newfoundland. I was a young teacher, and I did not live in the Redemptorist parish. In fact, I lived far away, as I was teaching in a rural community. But often, when I was in St. John's, I would go to Mass at St. Teresa's, and I was impressed by Father Ray. I was touched by his availability, how he welcomed people. But not only the people physically, he welcomed their ideas and their insights. He was willing to try any good idea and to encourage people to take leadership in bringing the idea to life. He wanted people to take ownership. Under his leadership, that parish was alive, a place that welcomed people from all walks of life, a home and a spiritual center. I met Father Ray next when I was a student at St. Michael's College, completing a master's degree in religious education. This time, he was the provincial superior of the Edmonton-Toronto province. I began to lead youth ministry programs for the Redemptorists, and Father Ray really supported these programs. When I was on the team for Serve, a 6-week summer program for young adults, Father Ray was always there with an encouraging word or a helpful idea. He often dropped by to spend time with the team and the young adults, and he often brought a visitor in whom he thought the young people might be interested. In doing this, he exposed us all to a wider world and to many new ideas. Father Ray was particularly passionate about the Redemptorists. He was a Redemptorist to the core. Once he discovered that I was interested in Redemptorists and the way they did things, their spirit and their history, he started telling me stories and giving me things to read, and then we would talk about what I was reading and learning. He fed my hunger with good food. He introduced me to the founder of the Redemptorists, St. Alphonsus Liguori, and to the other great characters in the history, St. Clement Hofbauer, St. Gerard Majella.
There's a story about a religion teacher who asked her grade 1 class, "What is a saint?" And a little girl frantically waves her hand to answer, I know. A saint is someone that the light shines through." She'd seen the sun streaming through the stained glass windows in her parish church. That's a good lead into St. Gerard Majella, on whom we're going to reflect for a few minutes. Gerard is someone through whom the light of God shone. He's one of 3 saints in the first group of Redemptorists founded by St. Alphonsus Liguori, and one of 13 Redemptorists who have been declared saints or blessed down through our history.
He taught me about the Redemptorist way of life and introduced me to the people and their stories. And only once I knew these, he introduced me to their guiding and inspiring documents, the Redemptorist constitutions and statutes, the writings of St. Alphonsus, and more. Mentors are generous with their time and their skills, often casting their nets out onto the waters of a new generation. Often, they introduce us to people who themselves become mentors. On the very first night I worked on my very first serve, Father Ray brought a visitor to Gerard House, the student house, and it was Father Juan Lasso de la Vega y Miranda. He was the superior general, based out of Rome, but from Spain. He wanted to know what we were doing, and I wasn't very smart. I'd never heard of Father Lasso before, so it was my introduction, and he listened to us for pretty well a full evening as we were doing our preparations, and then he said, "Now I will talk to you. Come, we talk." And we sat down in the library in the basement, and he took the globe from the bookshelf and put the globe of the world on a table between us, and he spun the globe and stuck his finger into it. And where it stopped, it was on Burkina Faso, a country in Africa, and he said, "There are Redemptorists in Burkina Faso," and he named the 3 of them by name. He had been there. He'd spent time with them. He dressed like they dressed. He lived what they lived. He immersed himself in the culture of that place, the way they did, and he got to know the world through their eyes. So he told me about these men. The very next night, after a full day of preparations again, Father Lasso came back, and this time he took the globe, spun it for me, and pointed his finger at Iraq. And at that time, we'd just begun the war in Iraq in 1991. He put his finger on it and told me about the Redemptorists who live in Baghdad and the struggles they faced. I was hooked. I thought the thing that ran through my mind, which seemed impossible at the time, was if he can know these men with this kind of depth, if he can have such a place in his heart that he'd know their names, maybe there's a place for me in this family. Maybe there's a possibility here that someday I can be part of this picture too. And I didn't know how, but I was hooked. That was the only word I can use, like a fish being played out on a hook. And I just fell in love with Father Lasso, but I was already in love with the poor, and that had a great deal to do with my friendship with Father Ray. Father Ray was a great teacher because he was generous and willing to share. He taught me in formal and informal ways. In lots of ways, I would say that Father Ray was the master craftsman, and I was one of his apprentices. He let me observe him, watch, and learn. Then he would do things with me, or place me in contact with someone from whom I could learn something new, like how to lead a youth mission, how to preach as part of a parish mission team, how to introduce adults to St. Alphonsus and his way of praying. And then, when I had tried on my own with a team, Father Ray was always there to celebrate. Father Ray was curious about everything. His eyes would light up when he discovered a new idea. His spirit of wonder and his capacity to be amazed were really inspiring. It was as if inside this grown man there lived an eternal child, full of wonder and awe. He had an infectious giggle, and to hear it warmed me through and through, because it always signified that he engaged me on this path of wonder. Father Ray was always available, especially to people who were hurting or in need, to young people and to younger Redemptorists. As busy as his days were, he always had time for the interruption, for the one who needed a few moments of his time. Most of all, Father Ray was real. He could laugh and cry with people. He could share their joy and feel their pain. Father Ray was one of the best friends you could ever know in life. He maintained friendships from all ages of his life and from all the places he had ministered. This was truly inspiring because he had been in many, many places and been part of many, many projects and activities. But so many people knew his capacity for friendship. Father Ray taught me and guided me to become a fuller person and a better person of the gospel. I miss him every day, but mostly I'm grateful every day that I knew such a man, that he walked with me. He continues to walk with me, I know. There are times when I still feel his pride in me and hear his giggle. I can only hope that some of his spirit and capacity for joy, for wonder, for seeing the gifts of people and calling them forth have become a part of me. You and I come from a long line of faithfulness. Corey, as we called Father Ray, is part of my long line of faithfulness. Who has been part of yours? Today, I encourage you to think about the people who have shaped you, molded you, and mentored you, and to give thanks for them. In them, God has poured out God's abundant, abiding love. Then, go and do likewise. You must be a mentor for others, taking on apprentices in the Christian life, guiding them, teaching them, leading them, and, when the time is right, encouraging them to spread their wings.